Hi, everyone. Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, is one of the most powerful and talked about leaders in the world. Today I'm going to tell you a tale about him. His life is like a movie, with a lot of problems, action, and success. This narrative isn't only about a leader. It's also about how a little child with enormous goals grew up to be one of the most powerful men in the world. So sit back, relax, and pay close attention. This narrative will not only help you with your English, but it will also make you believe in yourself. Let's begin with his boyhood, which is where it all started. Putin was born on October 7, 1952, in Leningrad, Russia. This city is now called St. Petersburg. He was the youngest of 3 kids, but unhappily, his 2 elder brothers died before he was born. This meant that he was the sole child of Maria Ivanovna Putina and Vladimir Spiridonovich Putin. His family lived in a tiny flat that didn't have separate bedrooms and kitchens like the ones we have now. No, this unit was in an ancient building that was considered a common flat. Vladimir grew up in a small apartment with a lot of other families. They all had to share a kitchen and a bathroom. Back then, there was no privacy. If you needed to go to the bathroom, you could have to wait in line. The kitchen was usually full of families making their meals at different times. Vladimir's family didn't mind when the fragrance of food from other families entered the flat. Because a lot of families in Russia lived this manner after World War II, they were used to it. Putin was born in Leningrad, which was badly damaged during World Battle II. The city was practically devastated, and people were still rebuilding from the battle. There wasn't much food, and life was hard. Putin's mother worked hard to take care of the family after his father was injured in the war. Vladimir's parents loved him very much, but they were severe. They encouraged him to always work hard and never give up, no matter how bad things became. They didn't realize that their little, slender son would one day be the leader of their country. Putin wasn't a huge or robust youngster. In fact, he was rather little and slender compared to other kids. Because of this, several lads in his area tried to pick on him, but Vladimir wasn't the kind of person to weep or run away. He chose to get powerful so that no one could ever pick on him again. He started practicing judo and a Russian martial art when he was 12. He trained every day. He wasn't simply trying to win. He was also working to boost his self-esteem and self-control. He got so proficient at judo that he got a black belt. He still likes judo and thinks it taught him how to keep cool and think clearly when things become tough. Vladimir's desire was totally different from other youngsters' dreams of becoming physicians, engineers, or teachers. He wanted to be a spy, exactly like in the movies. He loved hearing stories about the KGB, which was the Soviet Union's spy agency. At that time, the KGB was one of the most powerful groups in the world, and young Putin aspired to join them. But it wasn't simple to become a KGB officer. You had to be smart, disciplined, and well-educated. Putin recognized this, so he focused on his academics. At first, he wasn't the best student in school, but he worked hard to get better. He also learned how to speak German, which would aid him in his job later on. Living in a shared apartment wasn't simple. Every morning, Vladimir's mother would get up early to make breakfast in the kitchen that everyone used. While other families prepared their meals, she would wait her turn to use the stove. People would sometimes fight about whose turn it was. Before heading to school, Putin would eat simple things like bread with butter and tea. He would often help his mother with little things after school. Vladimir's family didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't buy him nice things. But he didn't care about nice toys or clothing. He only wanted to be a KGB officer. Putin went to Leningrad State University, one of the premier schools in the city, after he graduated from high school. He studied law, which was a wise move because the KGB routinely hired persons with a legal degree. Putin was quiet and concentrated while he was in college. He wasn't the boisterous or popular kind, but his instructors noted how smart and disciplined he was. He eventually got his desired job after graduating in 1975. He joined the KGB. For a little boy from a poor household, this was a major deal. Just think of how cool it would be to wear the uniform of one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world. Putin began his career as a covert spy, working behind the scenes to keep his country safe. During the Cold War, when the globe was split between the Soviet Union and the United States, his first large job was in East Germany. Putin worked discreetly, getting information and learning about things outside of Russia. He learned how to manage tough situations and was better at speaking German while living in East Germany. Putin enjoyed being a spy, even if it was hard. He was learning things that will help him rule his country one day. Vladimir Putin's amazing adventure has only just begun. He started out in a small, packed flat in Leningrad and worked his way up to the KGB's coveted halls. His story is proof that hard effort and determination can make a big difference. Vladimir Putin was a successful KGB officer in East Germany, but in 1989, something major happened that transformed his life and the world. The Berlin Wall collapsed, and the Soviet Union began to fall apart. People were disgruntled with the administration, and things became hard for everyone in Russia. In 1990, Putin went back to his hometown of Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, because he knew the world was changing quickly. He quit the KGB in 1991 because he wanted to start a new chapter in his life. It was time for him to pursue something different and greater. Putin didn't become a prominent leader right away when he left the KGB. He got a tiny position at Leningrad State University, where he had studied. He worked as an assistant to one of his former professors and helped with administrative tasks. But shortly, an opportunity came up. Anatoly Sobchak, the mayor of St. Petersburg, wanted a clever and trustworthy person to work alongside him. Putin got the position. This was the first thing he did to get into politics. Putin wasn't a politician yet, but he learned quickly. He worked hard behind the scenes to make sure the city ran properly by arranging projects and doing vital chores. People started to notice him since he was quiet, yet got things done. Putin wasn't like some other leaders who were loud and flamboyant. He didn't talk much, but when he did, people paid attention. He was recognized for maintaining calm and addressing problems swiftly, even when things became rough. One of his best traits was loyalty. He remained devoted to his employer, Anatoly Sobchak, even when things were tough. People trusted him because he was loyal. They knew he wouldn't betray others for his own advantage. Putin's tenure in St. Petersburg came to an end in 1996, and Sobchak lost his post as mayor. A lot of people felt this was the end of his career. But Putin didn't give up. He relocated to Moscow, the capital of Russia, to start over. Putin started working for the Russian government in Moscow. Initially, he only had little responsibilities, but he always did his best. The higher-ups were impressed by how calm he could be, how well he could solve problems, and how well he could keep things under control. Boris Yeltsin, who was then the president of Russia, soon recognized him. Yeltsin was seeking for someone trustworthy to help run the country, and Putin appeared like the best candidate. Boris Yeltsin named Vladimir Putin Prime Minister of Russia in 1999. This was a big deal. The Prime Minister is the second most important person in the country, so this was a significant issue. But Russia was having a hard time. The economy was bad, there was a lot of corruption, and people were losing hope. Putin had a lot to accomplish, but he didn't give up. He showed people that he was serious about making reforms. He made the administration more structured and put rigorous rules in place to stop corruption. People began to trust him over time. Something unexpected happened on December 31st, 1999. Boris Yeltsin said he was stepping down as president. Do you know who he chose to take his place? Putin. Vladimir. Everyone was shocked. Back then, not many people knew much about Putin, but Yeltsin trusted him to take over. Vladimir Putin became the acting president of Russia on January 1st, 2000, the first day of the new millennium. Putin didn't waste any time. He got to work right away on fixing Russia's issues. He worked to make the country stronger, the economy better, and crime lower. One of the first great problems he had to deal with was Chechnya, a part of Russia that wanted to be free. There were a lot of violent fights, but Putin stood his own. He intended to let the world know that Russia was powerful and wouldn't give up its land. Many Russians liked what he did because they were weary of how weak the country looked. They regarded Putin as a leader who could restore order and power back to Russia. Putin gained a lot of votes in the March 2000 presidential election in Russia. He officially became the president of Russia. Putin was youthful, full of energy, and determined to make Russia a world power again. This was the beginning of a new era for the country. He made the economy better, the healthcare system better, and the military more up-to-date by putting in place new rules. As Putin gained authority, he also gained wealth. Today, he is known for living a life of luxury. He is said to own costly aircraft, yachts, and automobiles, and he even has a collection of watches worth millions of dollars. Putin doesn't talk about his money very much since he likes to keep his personal life private. Some people think he should show off more, while others like that he is focused on work instead. Putin married Lyudmila Shkebneva in 1983. They had 2 children, Maria and Katerina, although they kept their personal life very discreet. Putin didn't want his kids to be seen by the public because he wanted to keep them safe. Putin and Lyudmila declared they were getting a divorce in 2013. They said it was a mutual choice and that they had grown apart over the years. Since then, people have been talking about Putin's love life. Some reports indicate he has a new partner, but he has never spoken anything about it in public. Putin has had his share of problems as a leader. Some people say he is too rigid or authoritarian, while others say his administration limits free expression. Putin has always kept focused on his aims, even if many have criticized him. He thinks that a successful leader should make hard choices, even if they aren't popular. Putin has long wanted Russia to be a strong and respected country. Even after more than 20 years in power, he works hard to reach this goal. His tale illustrates that hard effort, discipline, and dedication can get you far in life. Putin spent the early 2000s mending Russia's dysfunctional institutions. The economy was horrible, with people having trouble finding work and feeding their families. Factories were shuttered, roads were in bad shape, and corruption was ubiquitous. Putin's first step was to make the nation more orderly by putting strong rules in place. He focused on getting people to pay their taxes, fixing enterprises, and bringing in foreign investment. Under his leadership, Russia's economy started to rise slowly but certainly. Oil and gas became the country's most important sectors. Putin utilized this money to fix up Russia, which brought in a lot of money. Putin realized that a successful country needed a strong military. After years of neglect, Russia's army was in bad shape. Soldiers weren't getting the right training, and equipment was out of date. Putin started putting a lot of money into updating Russia's military. He brought in new technology, improved training programs, and more powerful weaponry. Russia became one of the strongest armed forces in the world over time. This was a huge step in telling the world that Russia was back on the world scene. Putin realized how important information was and how important it was to dominate the media in order to shape public opinion. He worked to make sure that most of the main TV networks in Russia were on the same page as his government while he was president. People didn't like this decision, but Putin thought it was vital to keep the country stable. He said that too much freedom in the media may cause anarchy. His plan worked to strengthen his grip on the country, even if many didn't agree with him. Oligarchs, a group of very rich businessmen, ruled Russia when Putin became president. After the Soviet Union fell apart, these oligarchs were very rich and powerful. A lot of them utilized their money to sway politics and make choices for the government. Putin didn't like this since he thought the government should be the most powerful thing. He began to fight the oligarchs, which made many of them flee the country or give up their enterprises. This was dangerous because these men had a lot of power, but Putin's resolve paid off. He made it plain that in his Russia, no one was above the law. Putin worked hard to fix Russia's connections with other nations when he was president. He traveled the world and spoke with leaders from the U.S., China, Europe, and the Middle East. Putin had a particular manner of doing things. He was forthright, sure of himself, and always in charge. He was a KGB officer before he became a leader, which helped him understand people and circumstances better than other leaders. He understood when to be kind and when to be tough. People throughout the world looked up to him, and sometimes dreaded him because of this. Putin was one of the most powerful people in the world by the middle of the 2000s. Putin is claimed to own many castles, private aircraft, and even a superyacht, which shows how powerful he is. A huge residence on the Black Sea, popularly termed Putin's Palace, is one of his most renowned homes. He also loves luxury automobiles and watches. His watch collection alone is worth millions of dollars. Putin is quite discreet about his personal life, even if he is incredibly rich. He doesn't talk about his relationships or family very much. Putin is known for being rough and courageous. He wants to show the world that he is powerful. He has been pictured doing things like riding a horse without a shirt on in Siberia, diving underwater to look at shipwrecks, flying fighter aircraft and helicopters, and practicing judo, which is a martial technique he has been studying since he was a child. These pictures are meticulously prepared to make Putin look like a strong, energetic leader who will do anything to protect his nation. One of Putin's best strengths is keeping friends and foes in balance. He knows how to work with China and India to build strong relationships while standing up to big countries like the United States. Putin annexed Crimea, a portion of Ukraine, in 2014. This was one of his most contentious decisions. The world was stunned by this move, and Russia faced hefty penalties. However, many people in Russia backed Putin's decision because they regarded it as a brave step to safeguard Russia's interests. Putin has been a leader for a long time, and it's been hard for him. People have called him overly authoritarian because he has limited free speech and cracked down on protests. Putin, on the other hand, thinks that his way of leading is vital to maintain Russia strong and stable. He often says, "A strong leader must make tough decisions, even if they are not popular." People who know Putin believe that although while he is known for being rigorous and controlled, he still has a gentler side. He loves animals, especially dogs. World leaders have given him many pets, and he regularly spends time with them at home. Putin also likes classical music and playing the piano. These little things indicate that even one of the most powerful men in the world has modest pleasures in life. Putin's rise from a modest flat in Leningrad to the president of Russia is nothing short of amazing. He has encountered a lot of problems, but he has always found a way to get through them. His perseverance, knowledge, and capacity to change have made him one of the most important leaders of the 21st century. As Vladimir Putin became more of a world leader, his life continued to change. Putin had bigger aims in mind as Russia grew stronger. He didn't simply want to make Russia stronger. He wanted the world to see it as a powerful country. But this stage of Putin's journey wasn't only about wins. It was full with problems, scandals, and brave choices that kept people talking. People say that Putin is one of the most strategic leaders in history because he always thinks about the long-term effects of his policies. People say that Putin is one of the most strategic leaders in history because he always thinks about the long-term effects of his policies. They have worked together on big projects like developing new trade routes and pipelines. This alliance has helped Russia depend less on Western countries. Another idea is that Russia is becoming more powerful in the Middle East. For example, Putin has backed leaders in countries like Syria, helping them stay in power during tough times. This has made Russia an important participant in the area, allowing Putin to talk to Western countries on equal terms. Wars of days aren't just fought with tanks and weapons. Technology is a big part of it, and Putin knows this better than anybody. Russia has spent a lot of money on cyber technology under his leadership, and Russian hackers are now among the best in the world. This has given Russia a special kind of power. It can change things throughout the world without sending a single soldier. For instance, there have been charges that Russian hackers messed with elections in other countries. These assertions are debatable, but they indicate how much power Putin has gained through technology. One of Putin's biggest successes is making Russians feel proud of their country again. Many Russians were ashamed of their nation when the Soviet Union fell apart. They thought Russia was no longer strong or respected. Putin put forth a lot of effort to modify this way of thinking. He started big efforts to honor Russian history, culture and accomplishments. He brought back military parades, constructed new museums, and even made legislation to safeguard the Russian language. He often declares, "A nation that forgets its history has no future." This philosophy has influenced many of his actions and made millions of Russians proud of their country again. Putin is quite strict about his health. He has a nutritious breakfast every day, which normally comprises quail eggs, cottage cheese, and fresh juice. After that, he swims for approximately an hour and works out at the gym. This rigid schedule helps him keep healthy and focused. People have seen Putin driving simple automobiles on important visits. This is part of his image as a leader who knows what it's like to be poor. Putin made a big move when he created the Eurasian Economic Union, EAEU. This group of countries, which includes Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Armenia, works together to make a strong economic bloc. The EAEU lets member nations trade freely, which makes their economy stronger and makes them less dependent on the West. Putin wants to build a system where Russia is in charge and offers choices to Western institutions. This action has helped Russia acquire power in Central Asia and abroad, making Putin's legacy as a visionary leader even stronger. Putin has modernized a lot of things in Russia, but he has also tried to safeguard its traditions. He thinks that Russian values are unique and shouldn't be changed by Western ideas. Putin, for instance, has taken strong stands on issues like religion, family, and education. He has backed the Russian Orthodox Church, calling it a vital part of the country's history. This has garnered him praise from conservative organizations, but it has also led to arguments regarding the separation of religion and state. Putin has been able to stay in power for so long because he is flexible. He has been through economic problems, political scandals, and even being cut off from the rest of the world. But no matter what happens, he always finds a way to come back. One of the things that makes him so popular is that he can connect with regular Russians. Every year, he hosts an event dubbed Direct Line with Putin, where people can ask him questions directly. This event indicates that he is not only a leader, but also someone who cares about what his people have to say. As Putin's tenure as leader goes on, his legacy gets more complicated. Some people regard him as a hero who saved Russia from collapse and brought back its greatness, while others see him as a controversial figure who has taken daring and often dangerous choices. No matter what others think, one thing is clear. Vladimir Putin's life is a narrative of strength, willpower, and vision. It is amazing how he went from being destitute as a youngster to being the president of one of the most powerful countries in the world. As we near the end of Vladimir Putin's life narrative, it's important to think about the legacy he's leaving behind, which will be remembered for a long time. Putin's path shows that brilliance, endurance, and strategy can influence history, no matter how you feel about him. Putin is a successful leader because he can change. He doesn't stick to the same road forever. Instead, he thinks about what he wants to do, learns from it, and changes his plans. For more than 20 years, he has been able to stay in power because of this skill. Putin famously remarked, "Leadership is not about staying in power, it's about staying relevant." This way of thinking has influenced his policies and choices. He knows that Russia needs to change with the times while yet keeping its own identity in order to be strong. Putin has always wanted more than simply Russia. He wants to make the globe a multipolar place where no one country is in charge. He thinks that smaller countries should have a say, and that the world's biggest powers should be held accountable for trying to dominate everything. Putin has spent a lot of money on alliances to make this happen. Russia's ties with China, India, and African countries are stronger than ever. He has also helped countries who are having a hard time because of Western sanctions by giving them economic deals and military help. People frequently say that politics is like chess, and Putin is a grandmaster. He doesn't make plays on a whim. He thinks about every move he makes. Putin is cool and focused, whether he is trying to make peace or answering criticism. One of his most famous instances was at a global meeting when leaders of major countries sought to corner him with allegations. Instead of becoming angry, Putin smiled and gave them facts, which turned the situation in his advantage. Every leader-to-be should learn how to maintain calm under pressure. He once observed, "Emotions are a luxury in politics." Putin understands he won't be president forever, so he has spent years laying the groundwork for Russia's future. Putin has urged young Russians to get into science, technology, and engineering because he thinks that the future belongs to countries that are at the forefront of innovation. Education. Putin's government has changed Russia's education system to make it easier for kids in remote regions to get an education. He also visits schools and colleges regularly to encourage the next generation of leaders. Healthcare. Russia has constructed new hospitals and made it easier for people to get medical treatment, especially in distant areas, thanks to his leadership. Putin's message to his countrymen is clear. The strength of Russia lies in its people. Invest in them and the country will do well. Putin's biography shows that being a leader isn't simple. He has been criticized non-stop at home and abroad. People are always arguing over his policies, actions, and style of leadership, but Putin never allows it get to him. He once said, "If you try to please everyone, you will lose yourself. A true leader must stand by their principles, even when the world disagrees." This belief has helped him get through some of the hardest times in his career. Whether it's dealing with sanctions, international conflicts, or political opposition, Putin has shown the world that staying strong is important. Putin is interesting not just because of his political career, but also because of the person who is behind the leader. Putin loves adventure. He likes to do things like ride horses, dive, and even fly planes. These hobbies indicate that he is brave and loves a challenge. Putin is very interested in learning. He reads a lot about history, politics, and military strategy. He thinks that knowledge is the best weapon. As we finish Putin's story, let's think about what we can learn from it. 1. Resilience is important. Life is full of challenges, but those who stay strong and adapt can get through anything. 2. Think strategically. Don't rush into decisions. Take time to analyze and plan. 3. Stay true to yourself. Leadership isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about standing by your principles. And 4. Invest in growth. Always try to improve yourself and the people around you, whether it's in your personal or professional life. Vladimir Putin's rise from a modest apartment in Leningrad to the international stage is a narrative of persistence, bravery, and vision. His life shows us that greatness is not about where you start, but how far you are ready to go. As we finish this amazing narrative, remember that you are in charge of your own destiny. If you dream big, work hard, and stay focused, there is no limit to what you can do.